Under cover of night, someone has poured gasoline on a mobile home in Varnville's Pepper Street, near a spot where the underpinning has been peeled away. Now, he lights a flame and attempts to set the mobile home ablaze. A short time later, one of the home's residents smells smoke and calls 911. Firefighters and police respond. The flames do not reach the home's interior, but searching the home, it becomes apparent why someone might try to burn the house down. The nude body of 27-year-old Anelia Simone Garvin is discovered in a bathtub, directly above the spot where someone tried to set fire to the mobile home. The Varnville Police Department and the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division investigate Garvin's murder. Though it will take some time before enough evidence is collected to warrant an arrest, a single suspect emerges almost immediately.
Friends and family immediately suspected that JT Jarvise Jenkins had something to do with Anelia's murder.
Here, for the first time, Hunter Swanson of the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office discusses the prosecution of Jarvise Terrell Jenkins of Round O.
JT had a history of domestic violence and abusing women. He had a 2005, I believe, conviction for domestic violence of a high and aggravated nature, as well as a federal weapons conviction. I believe he and Anelia met out at the club in Walterboro called Hang Time. They were both a bit, they were partiers, but they had fun together at first. And very quickly, he became very controlling, manipulative, and jealous. He would control her by taking her keys and her cell phone. He became reliant on her financially and would punish her if she didn't give him money. Really, a chain of events began on December 2nd. We know that he was stalking her. He showed up at her house. She was on the phone with a friend of hers after coming in that night early in the morning, and Anelia put the friend on speakerphone, and the friend overheard JT threatening to kill her because this was till death do us part, and she was his forever bitch. December 3rd, she worked her last shift. She was upset. She talked to a manager who gave her the advice to seek a protective order and maybe suggested that she shouldn't go home because she was scared. She dropped her friend, her coworker, off that night, arrived back home around midnight, and got ready to go out. During this time, GPS cell tower locations placed Jarvise at her Pepper Street address. Her cousin also notes that he was following them that evening in his tan Buick. They saw him at a gas station. They also saw him drive by when they were at a friend's house. GPS coordinates put him going from Pepper Street into Walterboro on Snyder's Highway, which is the direction that they were headed in that evening. Her body was discovered at about 3:30 a.m. on December 5th. Her grandfather, who resided in a bedroom on the opposite side of the trailer, woke up smelling smoke, and the smoke alarm went off. He then woke up his sister, her Aunt Sheila, and together they were concerned because they had not seen Anelia. She had a habit of locking her bedroom. He had to kick in the door and then discovered her naked, lifeless body in the garden tub.
Investigators and Swanson faced challenges in proving their case. Among them, it was unclear exactly when Garvin was killed, making a precise timeline of events difficult.
There's about a 24-hour period of time in which Anelia was last seen and her body was discovered. We felt like we could narrow down her time of death to sometime between about 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the early morning hours of December 4th. And that is one of the times in which JT's phone is not pinging off any cell towers.
Despite immediate suspicions about Jenkins, it took nearly 10 months for investigators to pull together enough evidence to make an arrest.
It did take a while for the historical cell site analysis to come back, as well as the DNA on the cigarette butt that was found on the ledge of the garden tub next to her body.
But perhaps the most compelling evidence against Jenkins comes from his new girlfriend, a woman who also has experienced Jenkins' jealous temper.
When he choked his pregnant girlfriend that he met through Facebook after Anelia's murder, it became clear that this was a pattern for him. April Cook was living her life, keeping to herself, working steadily, when she received a Facebook message from Jarvise. She didn't know him as JT, she knew him as Jarvise. She didn't know any of his Walterboro connections or friends. She didn't know Anelia or any of her friends and family in Hampton. She was from Beaufort, and they began talking regularly, and he inserted himself into her life fairly quickly. They initially enjoyed spending time together. She liked the attention that he gave her, but he quickly became abusive, and she got pregnant. She testified that they had an agreement that he wouldn't hit her while she was pregnant, but he quickly broke that agreement and, in fact, choked her while threatening to kill her mother, and the baby. The case was very circumstantial. What a lot of people don't understand is that the state can rely on circumstantial evidence, and the weight given to direct evidence and circumstantial evidence is actually the same. Although when we rely solely on circumstantial evidence, it must point conclusively to the defendant. Here we had his patterns of behavior that were established by friends and family members. He had been stalking her, threatening her, abusing her, choking her, manipulating her, controlling her, very much in the same way that he ended up doing to April Cook, the girlfriend that he got after he murdered Anelia.
In late January and early February of 2023, Swanson calls 20 witnesses during 2 days of testimony at the Hampton County Courthouse. A General Sessions Court jury finds 38-year-old Jenkins guilty of murder.
The jury went out at 2:15 and they came back with a guilty at 3 o'clock.
Circuit Court Judge Edward Miller sentences him to 50 years in prison.
She tried to be out of the relationship, and I think that's one of the things that really impressed me about April Cook, is that for a long time the defendant manipulated her into telling us that she was not cooperative any longer. He was telling her things like, the state is trying to break up our family, don't you want our family to remain intact? And preying on her emotions like that. It wasn't until very recently that she came to us having seen the light, and she said that her mama bear instinct took over, and she was able to, I think, along with the physical separation, completely separate herself from him. And she was so strong in her testimony, and he didn't expect that. You could see the change in his demeanor immediately.
Swanson is the leader of the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office Special Victims Unit, which prosecutes domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and other crimes against vulnerable people. The Solicitor's Office and its community partners also operate the 14th Circuit Victims Services Center, where victims of these crimes can seek assistance.
If you need to escape a dangerous situation, or if you know someone who does, there are people ready to help you. The 14th Circuit Victim Services Center can arrange shelter, counseling, financial aid, even legal assistance with restraining orders or child custody matters. And you don't have to wait until there is a criminal action taken against the person who threatens your safety and your life, because too often, by then, it's too late. Call us at 843-790-6220 or 1-800-868-2632 and do it today.